Hi everyone, and welcome back to our exploration of the Declaration of Independence. Ranger Leah here, representing Kings Mountain Military Park from right here in my backyard, where I'm surrounded by my trees and shrubs in their full summer greenery. Now that we've explored why the colonists wanted independence, let's turn to the document itself. And what we're going to do is look at each section, and then I'll break down what each section means after we read through it.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
The 13 colonies have agreed as one to break ties with Great Britain. They believe that both God and nature have given them this right, and now they're going to tell the world why they want independence. Our fight with Great Britain is not happening in a vacuum. Countries around the world, especially in Europe, are watching, and we want those countries' support in our fight for independence. France will supply us with arms and ammunition and loans as well, and eventually they will sign a treaty with us to come in on our side militarily. Spain and Holland will ally themselves with us as well.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Some rights should be obvious to everyone. First of all men are created equal. Now in 1776, equality does not apply to everyone. There are hundreds of thousands of enslaved black men and women. Women could not own property or vote, and poor white men who did not own property could not vote. But what the document does, it sets in motion a form of government that would one day include all people. God has given people certain rights that no one can take away. We have the right to life, we have the right to freedom, and we have the right to try to find happiness.
That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes.
The job of government is to protect the rights of its citizens, because a government draws its power from its citizens. If a government fails to do its job, if it fails to protect the rights of its citizens, those citizens have the right to change the government. Now notice that it says that the reasons to change the government should be really good reasons. It shouldn't be for something fleeting or silly. It should be for a good reason. Now we have mechanisms today where we can change the government, the most important of which is the right to vote. We also have the ability to call or write to our senators and our representatives. We have the right to create petitions, so we do have ways to effect change in the government.
And accordingly, as experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government, and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
People often choose to suffer rather than to change things because change is hard, change is difficult. The colonists have tried to be patient with King George and with the British Parliament, but it is their responsibility now to end what they see as unfair control. They call King George a tyrant. They believe he is unfit to rule them. And at this point, they include a very long list of what they think he has done wrong. I'm not going to go through that complete list, but it boils down to 5 main points. First, King George fires leaders who do not agree with him. Second, he doesn't punish British soldiers for hurting or even killing colonists. Third, he forces the colonists to provide food and shelter for British troops. Fourth, he forces the colonists to join the British Navy. And fifth, he does not give the colonists any say in making the laws.
In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Throughout all of this poor treatment, the American people had tried to reach out to King George III. They had sent him petitions and letters, declarations of grievances, asking him to respond and to respect the colonists' right. The king only made it worse. So now he is no longer fit to be their ruler.
Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They, too, have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends.
The American people didn't just go to the king with their grievances. They also appealed to the British people and their lawmakers. The majority of American colonists had come from the United Kingdom, and the whole reason this conflict starts is because colonists want the rights of Englishmen. But the people of Britain and their lawmakers did not listen either. And so now they are enemies at war. At this point, the Revolutionary War has been going on for 15 months since the battles of Lexington and Concord, and it will continue until there is a treaty signed.
We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved.
So there it is, the Declaration of Independence in a nutshell. The first time the phrase United States of America is used. And at this point, the writers of the Declaration and those in the Continental Congress consider all ties with Great Britain cut.
And that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of Divine Providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
So the United States now has the same rights as any other nation, any nation in Europe or around the world. They can go to war, they can sign peace treaties, they can make trade agreements with other countries, the same as any other nation in Europe. Now, when the signers of the Declaration of Independence put their names at the bottom of the document, they were literally signing their lives on the line. If the war had gone differently, if Britain had defeated the colonies, these men would have probably been hanged as traitors, or at the very least they would have been imprisoned for the rest of their lives. So they really meant it when they said they pledged to each other their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Some did lose everything, their fortunes and their lives.